Things, now you get to be the one guiding your own path. This journey is yours to command. And there's incredible power in that realization. Things, we live in a world that increasingly offers escape routes at every turn. The allure of avoidance grows stronger each day. Rather than healing, people opt to tweet about their pain. So rather than fixing problems, we distract ourselves with scrolling endlessly through Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. It's so easy to sidestep what matters. To keep notifications on and accountability off. It's easier to leave messages on read than to speak the words our hearts ache to express. It's easier to avoid the uncomfortable truths than to face them head on. But real strength, true unshakable strength, comes from being the one who stands tall amid the chaos of escapism. It's choosing to confront the things that others run from. Whether that's a difficult conversation with someone else or a quiet but painful reckoning with ourselves. Growth demands we face discomfort. Life is a gift, a chance, an opportunity that requires our eyes to remain open and our minds tuned into what really matters. So we must not sleepwalk through this precious experience. We have to move toward truths that mold us, truths that demand more from us. As the old saying goes, we must never wait with our hands held up. Begging life to give us something. We can't applaud ourselves only when things go right and point fingers when they don't. Growth calls for responsibility, for self-reflection, for courage in motion. And above all, it calls for a mindset of empowerment. It's realizing that if I don't like where I am, I have the power to change it starting now, starting with me. I've never been perfect. I never will be, but I can learn to grow, to transform. That is enough. It has to be enough. Because awareness is everything. Victimhood can disguise itself in comforting language, but ultimately, it's a trap. Letting go of that narrative was the most powerful choice I ever made, and I know I'm not alone in that. You simply cannot be both a perpetual victim and the master of your fate. Life will knock you down, drag you to your knees. But this moment right here is a reminder that you are not meant to stay there. Those who contributed to your pain, their background noise now. The past, a fading detail. Only story worth writing is the one where you decide what happens next. It's about you pushing through the noise and asking yourself, what's it going to take to get where I want to go? Because you are that powerful. You're strong enough to take that next step. And eventually you'll look around and see it. The circumstances have shifted, the people are different, the environment has changed, and most importantly, you've changed. You'll smile, not because the world gifted you some miracle, but because you created it. When life threw you every curveball imaginable, when you thought you had nowhere else to turn, you still stood up. You found the will to begin again. You forged ahead and built something new from nothing. If these walls could talk, they'd whisper the things you sometimes forget, the quiet truths hiding in plain sight. They'd gently remind you of those fleeting moments you walked right by. Not because you meant to ignore them, but because life is overwhelming. We focus on problems, on flaws, on all the things we think we're not. That's human nature. We're wired to protect ourselves from danger, not to celebrate the good. Even when we've experienced joy 99 times, we'll fixate on that one moment when things went wrong. That's how our brains work. But those same walls, if they could speak, would pull back the curtain on everything brilliant that exists just beyond your view. They'd nudge you to look back, not in regret, but in awe of how far you've come. You've walked a long road. One filled with challenges that shaped you and moments that defined you, even if you didn't realize it then. Progress can feel unbearably slow. Sometimes it feels like pain instead of progress. But every difficult step has moved you forward. Your lowest moments have pushed you into new versions of yourself, shoes you never thought you could fill, yet here you are wearing them. And if these walls could talk, they'd remind you of a fact that often gets overlooked. Your success rate in surviving your hardest days is 100%. You are undefeated in your ability to persevere. Every time life threw you into the deep end, you swam. Even when it felt like drowning, you eventually found your way back to shore. With each battle, you evolved. You became wiser, more resilient. And even when you didn't feel it in the moment, you were growing. Sometimes that growth is invisible, but it is always real. If these walls could talk, they'd urge you to acknowledge that. To give yourself credit for the transformation you've undergone. They'd remind you that everything in life is temporary, the good, the bad, the moments, and the people. They come and go. Things like shooting stars across the sky. And just because something wasn't meant to last forever doesn't mean it didn't hold meaning. Some of the most powerful lessons come from the briefest encounters. Thank God nothing is permanent, because that means change is always possible. And as you look ahead to the unknown, you have a choice. You can dwell in the shadow of what was, or you can carry the light forward. You can take with you the lessons, the love, and the wisdom that those fleeting moments gave you. Sometimes one brave step in a new direction is the difference between a life of regret and a life of purpose. If these walls could talk, they'd encourage you to be grateful for those moments. For the ones that hurt and the ones that healed. They shaped you. They would remind you of those lonely nights where you sat wondering if you'd ever be enough. They'd acknowledge your battles with imposter syndrome, your silent fears, your longing to be ready enough, experienced enough, seen enough. And they'd ask, when will you permit yourself to own your journey? You've earned it. You've endured. You've grown. You are not who you were a year ago, and that's a beautiful thing. Things, if only you could see what they see, the stretch, the elevation, the strength was built along the way. They'd tell you that you were never meant to meet expectations from the outside world. Things. You were born to meet your own, the pressure, the criticism, the judgment, it doesn't matter. This is between you and you. And when will you finally recognize the brilliance that's already inside you? The immense potential is just waiting for your validation. Marcus Aurelius once said, things. Remember how long you've been putting this off. You've been granted time again and again, but it won't last forever. Every second is a gift, a one-time offer. If these walls could talk, things, they'd tell you how many people walked in with dreams and walked out wishing they had acted just a little sooner, wishing they dared to leap before life moved on. Don't let that be your story. So you don't have to become someone else to move forward. You just have to realize who you already are. Not the one flaw or mistake, but the 99 victories that often go unnoticed. When it hurts, things. Remember you've survived worse. When you lose something, remember you've gained much more. And above all, know this. You can always put on a new pair of shoes. You can always choose a new path. Things. The past doesn't define you. The wake does not steer the boat, so steer forward. Know that the answers have never lived outside of you. They've always been within. Things. Think back to that version of yourself who stood at the edge of the unknown praying for help. They would be in awe of the oceans you've crossed. So the map you need isn't out there. It's built into your story. You are ready, and the proof is that you're still here, still growing, still capable of creating miracles. Things one courageous step at a time. If these walls talk, they'd show you how far you've come and how limitless your future still is. Now the journey belongs to you. Things, you're no longer a bystander in your own life, but the one steering the ship, choosing the course, and guiding the direction. That's a powerful shift, the realization that you're the one in control. In a world where escapism has become the norm, where it's easier to distract than to deal, that control is a rare gift. Today, it's simpler than ever to avoid what needs fixing. We can just post about it, mask our struggles in tweets, and hide behind a screen. We can leave messages unread, things, scroll endlessly through social media and pretend our issues don't exist. Because of confronting those issues, that takes effort, that takes courage. Things. It's easier to let things simmer under the surface than to say the difficult words out loud, whether to someone else or ourselves. But real strength lies in doing exactly that, having those hard conversations, initiating the change we know is necessary, even when the world encourages distraction. Things, choosing truth is what sets you apart. Life is such a precious gift, a remarkable opportunity, but only if we choose to live it with our eyes wide open. We must learn to notice what truly matters, to gravitate toward the truths that have the power to shape us. As Mr. B once said over 2 decades ago, things, never let yourself fall into the trap of simply raising your hands to the sky and asking life to hand you everything. That passive way of existing is not enough. We must own our outcomes. Things. We can't just celebrate when things go our way and blame others when they don't. This is about stepping into full accountability, claiming your right to create the life you want. You want transformation. Then it begins now, and it begins with you. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now in this very moment. Maybe you haven't been perfect. Maybe you've made mistakes. But perfection was never the requirement. You've always had what it takes to grow, to evolve, to rise. You already hold within you the awareness needed to begin. The idea of victimhood, while comforting at times, can be one of the biggest obstacles to growth. It's a silent deceiver. Letting go of that identity may sound harsh, things, but it's often the most liberating thing you can do for yourself. And I know many, like myself, who look back and say that shedding that mindset was the best decision they ever made. You cannot be both a constant victim and in control of your life. Those two identities simply don't coexist. Life can be brutal. It knocks us down, brings us to our knees, and breaks us in ways we never imagined. But here's the truth you must hold on to. You are not meant to stay down. That's not your story. Those people who contributed to your pain, things, they are just background noise now. What matters is what you do from here. It's about rising from the rubble, pushing aside the distractions, and asking yourself what it will take to move forward. What needs to change? What steps must you take? Because you are powerful enough to change the direction of your life. You are strong enough to take the first step, even if it's small. And one day, things, not far from now, you'll look around and realize that your world looks nothing like it once did. The faces will be different. The environment will shift. The atmosphere will be one of growth. Things. And most importantly, you'll be different too. And that transformation won't be because of what others gave you. It won't be the result of someone else's actions or decisions. Things, no, it will be because you made the choice. When everything seemed stacked against you, when life felt like an endless storm, you found a way to rebuild. Even when the road ahead seemed impossible. Even when you felt like giving up, you didn't. You created something new, something yours. And if the walls around you could speak, they'd whisper back the truths you've forgotten. Things. They'd remind you of your strength, your growth, and the silent victories you never celebrated. They'd bring into focus the important things you've walked past, not because you didn't care, But because sometimes as humans, we fixate too much on what's wrong. We obsess over our perceived failures, allowing negativity to color our view. We could have 100 good experiences, things, but one misstep becomes the defining memory. That's just how we're wired, to spot the flaw, to avoid the pain. But if those walls could speak, they'd show you a different story. Things. They'd reveal the brilliance sitting just beyond your current awareness. They'd tell you to look back, not with regret, but with awe. You've made it through so much. You've traveled an unthinkable distance emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Progress doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like a struggle. Sometimes it looks like standing still. But you've been moving forward this whole time. And if these walls could talk, they'd tell you just how many curveballs you've caught and thrown back. They'd remind you that your success rate through pain, through setbacks, is a perfect 100%. Yes, you felt defeated, but you've never stayed defeated. That's what counts. Every hardship has sculpted you into someone new. And each time you've overcome, whether you noticed it or not, you stepped into a new version of yourself. You put on a new pair of shoes, so to speak. You stepped into a new role that was waiting for you. And now you carry that strength with you, even if you can't always feel it sometimes. The most profound growth comes in silence, in moments where it looks like nothing is happening. But if these walls could speak, they'd beg you to see the change. They'd urge you to notice who you've become. They've seen the way you've clung to things that were never meant to last, hoping they'd stay forever. But life doesn't work that way. People, and moments come and go. They shape us, teach us, and then pass by like shooting stars across our sky. Just because something isn't permanent doesn't mean it lacked meaning. Some of the most fleeting experiences are the ones that leave the deepest mark. That person who hurt you, that season of loss, that brief glimpse of joy, all of it mattered. And as you walk toward an unknown future, you can either mourn the temporary or you can carry the wisdom it gave you forward. Sometimes that new step into the unknown makes all the difference. So if these walls could talk, they'd encourage you to lift your head, to be thankful for the moments that felt short but meant everything, because those moments built you. They gave you tools and perspective and made your path possible. They'd ask about those lonely nights when you questioned your worth, the times you sat in silence, wondering if you were ever enough. They'd remind you of the invisible battles you fought, battles with fear, doubt, and imposter syndrome. They'd wonder when you'll finally let yourself feel worthy. When you recognize how far you've come and how much you've learned, you've transformed beyond measure. And if you could only stretch just a bit further, if you could rise just a little more, you'd see it all. The new strengths you've cultivated, the stars you've caught along the way. You are more than what has happened to you. You are the architect of what comes next. There will always be moments where your vision feels clouded, where you can't quite see the light ahead. And in those times, it's easy to forget your power. But just because the road is foggy doesn't mean it isn't there. You've walked this far not by accident, but because somewhere deep down you decided to keep going. That choice, that willingness to persist, is what has separated you from your past. It's what will carry you into a better future. Portrayals, the images our eyes show us, often highlight only what's in front of us. They tell the story of what surrounds us now. But here's the thing. It took me years to understand this. Possibility and hope don't reside in what we see. They exist far beyond the immediate, far beyond the present moment. It's the pursuit of that unseen possibility that saved my life. That kept me going when everything around me told me to stop. Perhaps we're not given the present moment to merely accept it, but to change it in our own unique ways. I believe we are all architects. We're each building something, whether intentionally or unconsciously. And here's the part that gets tricky. As I've reflected, I've come to realize something important. Two truths can exist at once. On one hand, the only moment we ever truly have is now. As Eckhart Tolle says, depression is often being trapped in the past. And anxiety is obsessing over the future. A healthy life means learning to value and be present in the now. But on the other hand, there's power in being able to aim the present moment at a vision much bigger than what our eyes show us. That's where the real magic begins, when you understand that the present isn't a cage. It's a compass. Too often we move through our days on autopilot, not because we're choosing to be limited, but because we've accepted the limitations we see. We look at a wall and say, this is where it ends. But that's not the truth. It's just a default setting. It's not that you're trying to hold yourself back. It's just that your mind gets used to the slideshow your eyes present. It becomes natural to live within the boundaries of what's familiar. But that's not where your story has to end. Because there's a world just beyond what we can see, a world that challenges us to stretch a little further. What if we asked more of ourselves? What if we believe we could be more like the people we admire? Why shouldn't you change the parts of your life that weigh you down? Why have you settled for things that consistently make you unhappy? Just because your eyes show it to you now doesn't mean it's your destination. You have to train yourself to seek more, to look beyond the obvious. I remember when I was younger, around the time home computers were becoming common, my parents bought a Gateway computer. It came with a Star Wars demo game that I played over and over again. Eventually, I thought I had explored everything. It was just a demo after all. I assumed there were limits built in. Then one day, my friend visited and noticed a small button that opened a previously hidden door. It led to new levels, new experiences. Suddenly there was so much more to the game than I realized. I felt a bit foolish for missing it, but I was also thrilled by the discovery. That small hidden door changed everything, and that metaphor has stayed with me ever since. In life, there are secret doors just like that, hidden paths disguised as dead ends. You might think you've seen it all, but often the most valuable parts of our lives are tucked away. It's waiting for us to notice them. These moments and opportunities exist everywhere, in the ordinary, the mundane, the unnoticed things. They're only invisible because we haven't learned how to look for them yet. But once you recognize their presence, you can begin to move toward them. And the key to unlocking those doors is having a destination in mind. If you're not aiming for anything, you'll never stumble upon what's meant for you. Not because you're incapable, because your default setting is demo mode. It's how most of us live on repeat, inside a small loop of known experiences. But when you shift your mindset and start building something bigger, even if only in your mind at first, you begin to see the ropes and ladders that were there all along. Every part of your present moment holds tools you can use to build a better future. You're standing inside a toolbox surrounded by potential. So the question becomes, where are those hidden gateways in your life? Where are the overlooked blessings disguised as routines? Maybe it's in a book you haven't read yet, or a conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's applying for something you think you're not qualified for, or understanding how just 10 minutes of effort every day can change your entire world. Maybe it's about boldness, having the nerve to stare at your reflection and admit you've been clinging to yesterday. Maybe it's cutting ties with things or people that no longer support your growth. Maybe it's taking back an hour of your day to simply breathe, reflect, and be. It could be transforming your relationship with time, money, or self-worth. Ask yourself, what walls can you tear down today so that tomorrow becomes a place you actually want to live in? Because your current world is not fixed, it's flexible. It can change. You are not chained to this version of life, your eyes. They don't show you the future They show you what's available to use right now. They show you the raw materials, the bricks, the tools, the blueprint. But the structure you build is entirely up to you. Even in pain, there's always a doorway to healing. You don't have to stay where you are. Your journey ends only where you decide to stop walking. If no one has reminded you recently, let this be the reminder. You are powerful, you are capable, and maybe, just maybe, your life isn't broken. It just needs customization, the courage to break the routine, to step out of obligation, to build something beautiful from the pieces lying all around you. That's the heart of your story. That's the legacy waiting to be written. The moment you realize you're walking by answers daily and just haven't noticed yet, you begin to see your world differently. Remember, your eyes don't show the end. They show the beginning of a path, the beginning of a choice. They offer you the tools, not the instructions. That part's on you. As Mark Twain once said, logic will get you from point A to point B, but imagination will take you everywhere. So go beyond what is visible. Don't just comply, create. Don't just survive, build. Construct towers that kiss the sky, bridges that reach across broken places. And most importantly, never stop playing the game of life, because the only way to lose is to stop building And if you build with heart, with vision, with passion, that's exactly where you'll find yourself far beyond what your eyes ever imagined. The reason I place such immense value on taking even a single step forward, especially when we feel overwhelmed or broken, is because that one step changes everything. That step proves that you're still in the game, that you're not giving up on yourself. It shows you're giving life permission to deliver new opportunities, even when it feels like hope is hiding. You can only discover those hidden treasures, the clarity, strength, and direction, by moving. Standing still and dwelling in the pain doesn't invite answers, it only magnifies the fog. Motion is empowerment. Every time we inch forward, even carrying the weight of confusion, we're reminded that we're not empty, we're not without resources. We've had what we need all along, the tools, the skills, the inner fire. The act of moving ahead, even in small ways, validates that truth. We don't need everything figured out to begin We just need to believe that progress is still possible with what we already possess. Let me share a story that's always stuck with me, something that deeply captures what it means to build something beautiful out of imperfection. In 1998, the Goo Goo Dolls released a song called Iris. That track went on to become one of the most beloved songs of its time, and personally it changed my life. It was the first album I ever bought. I've listened to it hundreds, maybe thousands of times, and even now it still gives me chills. Naturally, I got curious and decided to dig into its backstory. Things, I found an interview with Johnny Rozesnik, the band's frontman and the writer of the song. The interviewer asked him about the creative process, the meaning behind the lyrics, things, and what inspired the track. And what really struck me wasn't just the song's message. It was the place Johnny was in when he wrote it. He'd just gone through a painful divorce. His personal life was unraveling. He'd been caught in a bad record deal where the label took most of the money. He was facing writer's block and felt lost. To get some space, he left his house and moved into a hotel in Los Angeles. No glamour, no hype, just a guy trying to keep it together. Then, one day, his manager calls him up and tells him there's an opportunity to write a song for the City of Angels soundtrack. He agreed to give it a shot, even though all he had were 2 lines of lyrics and a guitar with 2 broken strings. But he showed up, he auditioned, and that was enough. They gave him the green light, and the writing began. Johnny mentioned that the verses of the song were directly inspired by the movie, a story about an angel willing to give up everything, including his immortality, just to be with the person he loves. It's this soul deep exploration of love, sacrifice, and what it means to truly feel. But here's the part that floored me. The interviewer asked about the chorus, the huge, sweeping, powerful chorus that feels like a spiritual gut punch. It doesn't directly match the movie's plot. And when asked why, Johnny just shrugged and said something like, I don't know. The words just worked. That hit me. One of the most emotionally moving choruses ever written wasn't planned to perfection. It wasn't the result of a master formula. It was raw instinct, patchwork, a feeling expressed in pieces that happened to align. Even the title Iris came from the name of a country singer he saw in a magazine lying beside him. The song wasn't calculated. It was constructed, assembled from fragments of emotion, personal pain, and creative intuition. And somehow all those scattered parts made something whole. The entire process mirrors life so beautifully. He didn't have ideal circumstances. He didn't have all the right tools. He was emotionally low and creatively blocked. But he took what he had in that moment, 2 lines and a broken guitar, and moved forward anyway. And that step led to a masterpiece. What was born from pain became a gift to millions. The lyrics, the music, it resonated not because it told Johnny's exact story, but because it allowed others to place their story inside it. It became a vehicle for healing, hope, and emotional release. That's why this story has become one of my favorite metaphors for human potential, for discovering the hero within, for building your way out of darkness, not by waiting for perfection, but by working with what's already in your hands. That step forward, no matter how small, changes everything. It shifts your perception. When the mountain ahead looks too tall to climb, it's not always the mountain that changes. It's your belief in your ability to move toward it. Here's something I had to learn the hard way. The questions you ask shape your entire reality. I used to ask, this even possible? And as a result, everything around me became evidence for or against that uncertainty. Every barrier felt like a no, every setback became a closed door. But the moment I changed the question just slightly to, I know this is possible, but how will I get there? Everything changed. Suddenly, life wasn't a judge handing out verdicts. It became a puzzle to solve. What was once seen as failure became a clue. A blocked road became a redirection, not a rejection. You extend your search. You permit yourself to keep going. You trust that the solution exists. You just haven't seen it yet. And in this self-made expedition, you uncover strength you didn't know you had. No, things won't always go according to plan. But even the missteps, when seen through the right lens, are not reflections of who you are. They're simply signs that this path is closed and it's time to try another. That's why I love the Iris story. Because it's not just about a song. It's about a man who didn't give up, who turned broken pieces into something eternal. He didn't need perfect words. He just needed honesty. He didn't have a polished setup. He just needed enough to take the next step. And that's the invitation to all of us. Maybe you're not battling a record label. Maybe it's not a hotel room and a divorce. But you're facing something that hurts, something that makes you question your worth or your path. And maybe your next step isn't writing lyrics or composing a melody. Maybe it's getting out of bed when you don't feel like it, applying for a job when you're not sure you're ready, smiling at the mirror even when your heart's tired. It could be budgeting the last of your resources or believing in something invisible like hope or faith or your future. Maybe it's just moving forward step by step, until your world starts to change shape. And maybe you won't see the masterpiece yet. Maybe you'll just feel the struggle, the doubt, the discomfort. But that's okay. Because your story isn't finished. You're still holding the pen. And as long as you keep writing, even through messy lines, jagged emotions, or broken chords, you give life permission to surprise you. You allow the song to emerge. The heroes will rise. The villains will fall. The journey will unfold. You'll discover that everything made to be broken can be reassembled into something imperfect, yet stunningly beautiful. That is what life offers us, one grand adventure. A story that grows not despite the hardship, but because of it. It transforms us when we're at our weakest and teaches us why we're lucky to have endured Because through every broken line and fragile beginning, we are given one truth: we were always capable of building something extraordinary, starting with what we already have.